It's great to see you all here. It's been 2 months since the last one. But today we are delighted to be joined by Melanie and Katie from Better Start, who will be with us until 12 o'clock today. For many of our colleagues in England, Better Start will be a familiar name, particularly through their work with the family hubs. But for those who might be less familiar, Better Start is a team of early childhood development experts with a shared vision of achieving real and lasting change for children, from pregnancy right through to starting school. So they work across the UK to develop early year systems using a bespoke approach, placing infants' voices at the heart of everything they do. By bringing people together, transforming services, and putting research into action, they help ensure that babies and families are truly seen and heard. So at Homestart, we are continually reflecting on how we can be more inclusive of babies and families' voices in our practice. Last year, we've done a bit of work, and this shows up in many ways through how we think about maybe babies' voices in supervision. If you've not looked at the supervision toolkit, I'll recommend you to do so. Through the plans framework from Homestart Hillingdon, who's developed it and shared with the network. In Scotland through the Infant Pledge and our partnership work with Starcatchers as well. So there's lots of like good work already going on around babies' voices and inclusion. When I came across the Think Baby Toolkit on social media, it immediately resonated with me. It felt highly relevant to our work and something that would be a really valuable addition to our resource bank. So that's why I'm so pleased to have Melanie and Katie with us today to walk us through the toolkit and explore our collective reflection on its use in practice. And I think talking to Melanie is quite timely as well because it is still in a pilot stage, so our feedback will help them to kind of improve to the next iteration of the toolkit. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to hand over to you, Melanie, and I'll
Thank
stop.
you. Thanks so much for having us, Vicky. I'm just going to share my screen and then we'll get started.
Sure.
Um, just, just a minute and I will go back to the beginning. So is that okay for everyone? Can they see the slides?
Looking perfect.
Thank you, Katie. So Katie and I are very excited to be with you today. I'm Melanie Farman. I'm a development manager, like Vicky very kindly introduced us. I work at Better Start with Katie. Katie will just introduce herself and her role.
Hi, I'm Katie Sands and I'm Research and Evaluation Officer at Better Start, and I'm helping with the development of this next stage of the Think Baby Toolkit.
Thanks, Katie. So we're going to be facilitating a workshop with you this morning about our toolkit, which is all about strengthening how we notice, value and capture the voice of babies in our work. This session links closely as well, quite timely, with this year's Infant Mental Health Awareness Week, which is in June the 8th to the 14th. And the theme this year is attunement, which is all about slowing down, noticing, and really tuning in to babies and their relationships. So, what to expect from today? There's two aims. First, we'd love to share and raise awareness about our toolkit. And we really thank Vicky for the opportunity to do that. And second, to hear your reflections and feedback, because we really value that, because we want people to help shape how the toolkit continues to develop. So what to expect, like Vicky said, we'll be together for just about an hour, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief overview of Better Start, but I think Vicky's really set the scene there as well. And then we're going to introduce the toolkit to you if you've not. I think it was shared with you in advance, but we know everyone's busy, so may not have had a chance to look at it in depth. So we'll share some, or if you have had a chance to look at it in depth, then remind you about the toolkit. And also we're going to ask you to very much reflect on your own work and think how you might either already be using it or how you may use it and integrate it into your practice in the future. And then we'd really, really love your feedback because, like Vicky said, it's a pilot phase. So we're trying to capture that over the next coming months. And we know that other people's voices can really help shape it for the future. So let me click to it. Sometimes my screen is not clicking. So I'm not sure. I'll just give it a moment. There you go. Has that slide changed, Katie?
Yes, now it has.
Yes, it's just a bit slow, I think. So this is our vision and the way that we work in Blackpool. So who are we? Well, we all come from different backgrounds. Like my background is in the NHS prior to working in the team. I'm a health visitor, neonatal nurse and children's nurse by background. But we all have this shared experience of being passionate about early child development. And we have the vision for lasting change from pregnancy till when children start school. We began nearly 12 years ago now as one of 5 areas in England to receive National Lottery Community Fund investment. This was very much a test and learn approach designed to innovate but not fill funding gaps. And what we do is support the early years system in Blackpool and now further afield across the UK to help keep infants' voices central. And we try to turn research into action and make it helpful for the real world. We've got these themes, as you can see on the slide there, of partnership and community-led working. We work with all the services in Blackpool that touch the lives of pregnant women, babies and young children. We're driven by data and insights to drive our test and learn approach. And we move programs from conception to embedding to sustainability or even redesign. So on the slide there, you can see our vision in Blackpool is for Blackpool families to raise happy, healthy children who grow up in communities that they really feel proud of, and that every new baby in Blackpool will have access to the care and nurture they need for healthy development and will be ready to start school. And we're part of the NSPCC. So one of the key values of in the NSPCC is being committed to capturing and amplifying the voice of babies and families. And one of our core principles is to strive to keep the infant's voice at the heart of everything we do. And one way we're doing that is our Think Baby project. So again, apologies for this slow. I think that's it. So hopefully that will have moved on for you. So our Think Baby. So why Think Baby? How did we come to this work? So it grew out of a really simple but important question for us at Better Start. How do we make sure babies' experiences genuinely shape what we do when they can't tell us in words, but they can tell us in so many other ways? Well, we know that babies are communicating all of the time, and they do this through how they move, where they look, how they respond to touch, what their tone is like, and what's the emotional atmosphere. But in busy systems and busy lives, that communication, which is quite nuanced sometimes, can be easy to miss or hard to put into words. So what our Think Baby project started is an attempt to create this shared language and a reflective space for practitioners so that they can notice babies more closely and then name what they're actually seeing and experiencing. And also, most importantly, then let that influence practice decisions and support for families. This is not about doing something extra. It's about doing what we already do, but with the baby more firmly in mind. And on the slide, you'll just see a little snapshot of things I'm going to talk through in more depth now, of some of the work that we've been doing over the last few years that's led to our toolkit that you'll be seeing today. So very much underpinning our work around Think Baby is something called the Lundy model, and the Lundy participation framework. So as part of our work, our team at Better Start had a Voice of the Child working group, which we'd set up to try and think about this together. And we were using the Lundy model, which really helped us to think about how children can meaningfully participate. And it uses the 4 domains that Laura Lundy, who developed the model, identified. So it's space, voice, audience, and influence as starting points. And then the model has lots of different questions and prompts, some of which you can see on the slide here. And we adapted that slightly for use in our place-based Blackpool work. So this is the adaptation that we came up with in its simplest form. And it's based on this framework that ensures children and young people can express their views, be heard, and influence decisions that affect their lives. And we don't have time to go into the Lundy framework in more depth now, but Katie's going to post a link in the chat so you can link to Laura Lundy's work, which she first developed this back in 2007. Click on in a minute when it wants to work. There we go. So this is how we then applied the Lundy model. So we wanted to test it out, and I used the adapted model. So how we did this, every year in Blackpool, our Better Start team worked with our colleagues in family hubs and some of the other organisations across the town to deliver Christmas grottos for families. So in the year that we were testing this, we had nearly 300 babies, children and families joined us for a week of Christmas grottos, and they experienced sensory play, crafts, stories, and of course, meeting Father Christmas. But we took the opportunity and we asked parents, what did they think their baby or young child had enjoyed the most? And how did they know that? We helped them sort of reflect and have those conversations about what they'd observed, what were their child's cues, how did they know they liked that particular activity, what was their experience. And we also asked our own team to share how they'd used the Lundy model during the event. And we gave them this sort of template with the different domains of the Lundy model. And we asked them to have a think about how they'd used it after the event and then write that down for us. And so we could practice and think about using these different domains and how did we know that the babies and young children really like the grottos. And what we learned was that while people, our practitioners, could describe what babies were drawn to during the grottos, many found it harder to put those observations into this shared language. So, and they found it hard from a baby's perspective to frame this within the Lundy model itself. So we had an opportunity because the Lundy network, we were connected in with them and they'd asked for case studies about how people were using the Lundy model and particularly in the babies and young children space. So we had a really great opportunity to film a case study with the Lundy network, using and giving more in-depth information about our work about in the Christmas grottos and how we were capturing the voice of babies and young children. And Katie's going to post the link because the video is publicly available on LinkedIn, so you could watch that back. It's only short at a later date, to give you ideas about how you might do something similar in your work. So as I said earlier, we love to take part in Infant Mental Health Awareness Week here in Blackpool. And this year, a few years ago, when we were originally doing the Think Baby Toolkit, when we first started developing it, it led to this next step of the toolkit. So we used Infant Mental Health Awareness Week in 2025 as our kicking off point. And we gathered insights from practitioners in Blackpool and nationally about how they listen to and record babies' voices in their everyday work. Because we'd been asking ourselves in Blackpool, and like, how could we do it better? What things worked? What resources could we use? And we were chatting with lots of our colleagues who work in this space, and they were having similar things, and they wanted to explore this further with us. So we did it through hosting a webinar and speaking with all of these practitioners locally and nationally. And Katie is now going to tell you a little bit about this more.
Hi, thanks, Melanie. So I'm going to put a link in the chat again. Here you go. This is to the page on our website all about this. But basically, as you can see, there's 3 films of the conversations that we had with practitioners and a link to the webinar recording itself. They're well worth a watch because there's so many ideas in terms of putting things into practical terms. You'll get a lot from them. And so, so as Mel said, during Infant Mental Health Awareness Week, the webinar was more than just an opportunity to showcase what we had learned. It was an opportunity to hear from practitioners. It was an opportunity to hold space, to share best practice. We had nearly 300 attendees from all over the UK and lots of different organisations and professional bodies. So it was an ideal opportunity to further evidence gather in order to inform the Think Baby Toolkit. And it's also where we launched our national survey so that we could get people from all over the country to share their thoughts on how they were capturing the voice of the babies in their practice and which resources, frameworks and models people were already using. So these are our principles. So basically the responses that we had from the survey were amazing. They were so rich and there was so much in there. There was a huge thematic analysis carried out, which was informed not just by the results from the surveys, but also the conversations had during Infant Mental Health Awareness Week. And we were able to take these themes and refine them down into these 3 principles, which you can now see on screen. And these became the sort of the core tenets of how to use Think Baby, how to put the voice of the baby into your practice. So listening to the feedback from practitioners, it was clear that people were looking for practical strategies and tips to support them while they were, in the room with infants and trying to listen to the baby's voice. So in a minute, we will come back to those principles and how we actually put them into practice. But to give us an idea of our audience today, just really quick in the chat poll, so you see the chat at the bottom of the screen, could you drop, please, a yes in the chat if you actually have had a chance to look at the Think Baby Toolkit before today? And if you haven't, that's completely fine. If you could drop a no, just so that we can understand sort of, the audience that we're working with, that'd be really helpful. Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you. I can see lots of people coming through already. That's wonderful. Okay, that's great. Thank you, everybody. Really helpful. So it seems about half and half-ish. And then just one more question while I've got your attention, if that's okay. Could you, in the chat, could you put I have, if you have had a chance to put any of the ideas in the Think Baby Toolkit into your practice already? And if you haven't, could you put have not? And then we can see the difference. That'd be amazing. Thanks, Charlotte. Oh, great. Okay. It's good to hear. Other people still waiting for an opportunity. That's good. Okay. Thanks. Nice to know, Rebecca. Rebecca said it's in our plans. Okay, that's really, really helpful. So it seems like most of you, about half of you have had a look, but about most of you haven't actually had a chance to put it into practice yet. So that's really great. So as we were saying, this is the soft launch version of the toolkit. So anything that you might come back to us with today will be going into the final launch of the toolkit, which is going to happen at Infant Mental Health Awareness Week 2026 in June. So just anything that you can add, any thoughts, any reflections, even any questions that it raises for you, anything like that, just drop it in the chat. That'd be really, really helpful. But now back to Mel.
Thanks, Katie. And yeah, just to share that, I know Vicky mentioned about star catchers. We were very fortunate that star catchers were part of the webinars and conversations that we did in infant mental health last year about Think Baby, because of some amazing work, and that's really helped us with the Think Baby Toolkit as well. So we know, don't we, that babies have so much to tell us if we really slow down, notice, and hold that space to listen. So this project seeks to honour that perspective. And what we want to invite practitioners to do is tune into the rich inner world of babies and really reflect on how their interactions nurture their early thinking, feeling, and relating. So before we explore the toolkit in a bit more depth, its principles, we wanted to put this slowing ourselves down a little into practice, because Think Baby requires a different pace. Babies don't communicate on our adult timescales, and if we rush, we may miss things. So we're going to take a short pause, and it's all about helping us to arrive more fully, become more aware of ourselves, and step into a reflective mindset. There's nothing you need to do during this. It's just time to notice. And we thought we want to take these moments to slow ourselves down and check in with ourselves. So wherever you are, we're going to take 3 minutes now to do a mindfulness meditation. There would have been, I'll click onto the next slide shortly. We did test the sound for this earlier and it wasn't working properly. So what we're going to do is plan B, because we always like a plan B. And Katie is going to read the meditation, but we won't have the bell. But she'll say, like, we're going to start it now. And then she'll read it and then she'll say, right, we're stopping. And so we know that that's the 3 minutes up. And yeah, whatever feels best for you during that time, you could turn your cameras off or you can keep them on. So yeah, I'll just move the slide on and then Katie it's when it wants to. I think my slide deck is definitely Think Baby, because it's definitely pausing.
It's slow. It's in the...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, everybody. So yes, we're just going to take a moment then just to pause and really sort of go into our inner world. So I recommend, if you possibly feel like it, if you could close your eyes, turn your camera off. I'm going to turn my camera off, and just so that you can be completely just within your inner self. So this meditation is called the 3-minute breathing space. Taking a breathing space, making a definite change in your posture so it embodies a sense of being awake. Perhaps closing your eyes and beginning step 1 by seeing what's going on in your mind and body right now. What's the weather pattern like inside? What thoughts are around? What feelings are you feeling? Are there any sensations in your body that you notice more than any others? Just being open to what's already here. And then moving to step 2, which is all about bringing the attention to your breath, narrowing that spotlight of attention to sensations of the breath in your abdomen, tuning into the changing physical sensations of the in-breath and the out-breath, tuning in for its full duration. And if the mind wanders, simply acknowledging where it went and gently escorting it back to the breath. And now step 3, expanding the focus of your awareness around the breath to take in the whole body. As if your whole body were breathing now, aware of your posture, your facial expression, aware of sensations on the surface of the skin and from right inside the body, holding now an awareness to all the sensations in your body right now, just as they are. And now, coming home to the body, coming home to this moment, perhaps opening your eyes if they were closed, bringing yourself back into this room. And when you're ready, let us know by turning your cameras back on. Thanks, Mel. Back to you.
Thanks. Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for that. So thank you everyone to being open to taking part in that. Hopefully that's just given us that moment of thinking space and calm to be in a much more relaxed, reflective, self-aware state. So we're now going to move on to the 3 principles of our toolkit. One thing that we really kept hearing from practitioners was that people could really notice babies really well, but found it much harder to, number 1, describe what they were noticing. Number 2, feel confident to then record that if it was relevant, or if that was part of their job, or write it down, or to explain how it influenced their decisions. So we really hope that the baby toolkit is designed to bridge that gap. So we're now going to dive into the principles more, and you will probably find yourself automatically reflecting on your own practice or your own experiences and feeling what these principles mean to you. And you might imagine or recall how you'd apply them in your own practice and integrate it, and how you might use the toolkit, or maybe even give advice you would give to someone else who wanted to aim to embody the principles. So we'd really ask you or encourage you to note down any ideas that come to you, jot them down, and then these will come in handy for a bit of an exercise later on in the workshop. So you've seen the principles earlier on in this presentation. So they are: I value babies. I slow down and am in the moment. I support parents to think baby. So these came from, everything in the toolkit has come directly from practitioners across the UK who shared their thoughts on how they are thinking baby or capturing it in their practice. We've written them in the first person on purpose. They're not rules, they're not targets, they're anchors, something to return back to when practice feels complex or can be emotionally demanding. As I talk through them, you may notice moments that feel familiar, moments that feel challenging, or ideas you'd really like to take back into your work. Just hold on to that, like I said earlier, if it resonates, and we'll come back to it. This toolkit is based on the belief that babies have their own unique minds and are developing unique ideas about the world through their relationships with us. It is designed to support practitioners in deepening their connection with babies and their families. But thinking baby, truly tuning in to baby's experience, is not always easy. It takes practice, support, and protected thinking spaces with colleagues. For babies that are facing the greatest of difficulties, what they communicate can often be painful or distressing to witness. In those moments, it might feel easier to turn away or distance ourselves from what the baby may be telling us. So we're going to focus on the principles one by one now and talk a little bit more about them, what the foundational beliefs are and some top tips for each of them. So number one is highlighted, the principle on your screen. So I value babies. So what does this mean? What were practitioners sharing with us? Valuing babies starts with a really simple idea. Babies are people now, not adults in waiting. This principle is about recognizing babies as active participants, service users in their own right, and holders of experiences, even when they might not be able to speak with words. In practice, valuing babies might look like talking about the baby explicitly, even when the focus is on the parent. Noticing how decisions affect the baby's experience, or gently bringing the baby back into the conversation when they may drift out of view. Many practitioners told us this principle was less about skills and more about a mindset shift, keeping the baby in mind consistently. So for this principle, you might want to reflect and ask yourself, where does the baby sit in my thinking? And where might they slip out of view? So on your screen under I value babies, a foundational belief has just come to the fore. And also we'll share, because each principle has these foundational beliefs and 3 top tips, so that they're easy to use and refer back to when you're working with families. So the foundational belief that I value babies is, this theme reflects a foundational belief that babies are active participants in relationships and services. Valuing babies means recognizing these rights, their experiences and needs, even when they cannot articulate it themselves. And the 3 top tips for principle 1 are: put baby at the center, create space in all its forms, keeping the baby in mind. And we're going to bring these to life more when we come to what practitioners, some quotes shortly. Principle number 2, I slow down and I'm in the moment. Babies communicate in those tiny, subtle, nuanced ways. It may be a pause, a turn of the head, a softening or a stiffening of the body. If we move too quickly, we miss those tiny cues. So what this principle is encouraging and inviting us to do is slow the pace, tolerate silence, and stay curious rather than jumping to conclusions. Practitioners talked about this and how powerful it can be to sit back instead of stepping in, describe rather than direct, and give babies time to respond. Slowing down is not always easy, especially in our sometimes pressured environments, but it often changes what we notice. You might reflect from this principle's perspective on what happens when I give myself and the baby a little more time. So the foundational belief for principle 2 is that babies communicate through subtle cues, body language, facial expressions, and sounds that can easily be missed in fast-paced environments. This theme highlights the importance of slowing down, observing carefully, and being present. And the 3 top tips in this principle are: observing is key, listening to both verbal and non-verbal cues, responding with curiosity and wonder. So moving to principle 3, I support parents to think baby. Thinking baby isn't something parents are automatically expected or often able to do, especially when we're tired, stressed, or dealing with their own experiences. What this principle is about is supporting parents to notice their baby, making the baby's experience visible, and modelling that curiosity, not judgment. So this might look like narrating what a baby may be communicating. So you're helping the parent to get into that mindset, or gently wondering out loud, or affirming the parent when they respond sensitively to their baby. It's about doing this with parents rather than to them. So a useful reflection here might be for ourselves to ask ourselves, how do I help parents see what their baby is telling them without adding pressure or blame? So principle 3 foundational belief is parents play a central role in interpreting and responding to their baby's voice. This principle explores how practitioners can support parents to tune in to their baby's cues, strengthen bonding, and build confidence in their caregiving. And the 3 top tips for this principle are sharing the learning with parents, supporting parents to bond with baby, recognizing parents' capacity to think baby. So we've given there like an overview, and we're now going to look in a little bit more depth at what and bring the principles to life. Oops. When my computer decides to move on, there we go. So let's think and bring these to life now. So these principles are definitely not meant to just be in the toolkit and sit on a shelf. They're meant to live in practitioners' practice and be out there in the real world. So I'd like to encourage you to think about this from your perspective. So you probably already hold some of these principles. So where are you already aligned? Where might they feel a little bit harder? Or how may the toolkit might support reflection with colleagues, or like in supervision, or reflection with parents, or even just yourself on your own when reflecting on your own practice. So there's no way that there's the expectation to hold these 3 perfectly. No one's perfect. We're all human. It's just about practice and thinking about them and coming back to them. So we're now going to bring them to life, and I'm going to share with you some quotes from the practitioners about how they do this in their work. So we've put on the right-hand side the principle that we're talking about, just as a reminder, the foundational belief, and then the 3 top tips. And what I'm going to do now is share with you a quote which is attached and resonates to each of the top tips and gives examples, hopefully practical things for you to think about how other practitioners are putting this into practice in their daily work. So number 1, put the baby at the centre. So in this top tip for I Value Babies, Emma, this was a quote from one of our community connectors in Blackpool. She said that it's really important to her to always put the baby and young child at the centre of everything she does. So whether that's signposting to something or to whether when she's with the baby or the parent, and she's always found that the end goal has always been a positive outcome for the baby or child. So B, who's a consultant clinical psychologist, said in her parent-infant relationship service that they try to orientate the baby's experience and position at all times, reflecting aloud on things that pull attention away from the baby or can get in the way of baby's needs being recognised or acted upon. So we've linked that to top tip number 2, create space in all its forms. And then when thinking about keeping the baby in mind, another practitioner said, so you'll notice some of the people and their roles are named on the quotes and some aren't. So when we conduct research and ask for feedback, we always obviously get consent and we ask if people are happy for their quote to be used or if they're happy for their name or role. And this practitioner was happy for their quote to be used but not for their name and role. So that's why it says practitioner instead of the name. So this practitioner shared it's important to them to consider and capture what life is like for the baby and within their family unit using observations of the infant-parent relationship and to document their interactions and the care that the baby receives. And that's one of the ways that they keep the baby in mind. So we're now going to look at some quotes from practitioners in relation to Principle 2 to bring it to life a little bit more. So with top tip number 1 here, which is observing is key, Zoe, who's from the Blackpool Parent-Infant Relationship Service, shared modelling, watching, waiting and wondering with parents about what their baby was communicating, that being with and alongside parents to observe their baby and modelling that slower pace in their interactions with the family and identifying nuances of the cues, responses and helping the parents to identify them, to name them and to wonder what they mean. And then Eve, who's an early years practitioner, she really felt that this brought to life the top tip number 2, listening to both verbal and non-verbal cues, when she says, my top piece of advice is don't be afraid of silence. A big part of ensuring the baby's voice is heard is observing the baby. You need to look for both the verbal and non-verbal cues and analyse them, listen to them and understand them before you can react to them. Take their voice into your next step, reaction or planning. And then for top tip number 3, responding with curiosity and wonder. So B shared that for this, she finds it's often more successful to wonder together than to tell parents what to think. So moving to Principle 3, I support parents to think baby. A practitioner shared with us when thinking about sharing the learning with parents, the voice of the baby can at times be difficult, especially when they are still in the womb. My team talk about how they are growing and moving around as well, and how their mum goes to appointments to make sure they're healthy and strong. And lots of practitioners shared how they use case studies and write with the parents' permission and write them in the first person from the baby's perspective. And top tip number 2 in this principle, Angela shared in relation to supporting parents to bond with baby. We talk a lot of bonding and attachment and skin-to-skin contact with our parents and how effective these techniques are. We also provide guidance on how parents can read and respond to their baby's signals. And then for top tip number 3, recognizing parents' capacity to think baby, Zoe shares, engage in compassionate discussions with parents around how this can be difficult to capture the baby's voice given the world we live in and the current dynamics and the family situation. So acknowledge and name how this can be tricky. Be with parents, encourage curiosity and wondering about their baby. And she gives the example here that if your baby had a speech bubble above his head, what would they be thinking or saying right now? And really encourage them to have time to pause and reflect. So, on that note, what we're going to do now, we thought it would be good if we take a few moments. We're just going to take a few minutes for you to think about these 3 principles, and I'll move on to another slide, so they're all on the slide for you to reflect on and think, what do the principles mean to you? And we'd really love it if you feel able to, but equally, we totally understand not everyone. Sometimes we need time to go away and reflect on these things, and we can't post and chat or verbalize those straight away. But we'll just give, we're going to take a couple of minutes and think about how you could either how you have been or how you will apply these in your practice, and just general thoughts about how you might, anything that comes to mind about how you would like to share them in your practice. So I'll move on to the next slide and then you can see them all. So I'll just give a few minutes and Katie's going to monitor the chat. So yeah, if we take 2 minutes. And Katie, if you could read out some if they come up as well. Thanks, because I can't see the chat.
I will, no problem.
Thank you.
Previous clinicians have shared things with us about how it's really important that we use these principles and work even when it can be quite uncomfortable to do so.
Thank you. Yeah, super important.
So, Rebecca has shared, in my experience, hang on, my chat's funny. In my experience, it's about fostering an environment where systems exist that allow us to slow down and be in the moment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That came through actually at an event that I was at yesterday. We were at the Blackpool early years system, are currently looking at dating their domestic abuse strategy, and they are co-creating it with parents with lived experience. And one of the things that came through strongly, that practitioners don't always feel the system gives them time to be with families in the way that they need. So yeah.
Rebecca has shared, tomorrow we're doing some training for vols. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Never mind. I'm sharing on observing baby communication, and she says the quotes in here are already on our slides. That's absolutely fantastic to hear, Rebecca. If you have
That's
any
amazing.
questions, if you'd like any depth, if there's any sort of specific things that you've got coming up now, definitely ask Mel because she has a lot that she can help with.
No, that's really great to hear. Thanks for sharing, Rebecca.
Yeah. Rebecca, a different Rebecca, is saying she uses baby massage in their groups.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's a really good one. Yeah, some people, if anyone's got any resources as well, because, and we can capture that, we're coming up to do a poll shortly, or fill in a survey for us. We would really recommend if you post things that you use as resources or intervention, like therapeutic interventions like baby massage or newborn behavioural observation, things that you feel helps to support practitioners to think baby and helps parents to see what their baby's telling them about what their baby likes or doesn't like, then that'd be great, because we want to make sure we add that richness to the toolkit, because we only added in the things that people shared with us that they really rated and valued. So yeah, anything like that we'd love to include.
There's absolutely loads of tips in here, but so I'll just read a couple more because we probably
Thank
have to
you.
move
Thank you
on
so
to
much.
this.
We'll move on. Yeah.
Really quick one from Katie in East Lothian. We deliver dads to be antenatal for new dads and talk a lot about skin to skin, talking to the bump, etc. She hasn't thought about how we record this yet. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Recording all being being a researcher, the recording part of it is
Yeah.
very interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that is the thing that people have shared that they find harder about
Mm.
how to capture that, and it'll be dependent as well on what role and in what context. But yeah, we definitely think, and we're hoping to do another phase of Think Baby if sort of that allows itself in the future, specifically around babies who are, because this is what people told us about in the neonatal unit, or where they may be separated from their baby due to safeguarding reasons, and a toolkit that goes into much more depth and practical tips for those environments. So yeah, watch this space. I'm going to thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'll definitely read through them all myself when I've got access to the chat again. But what we're going to do now, and I don't fully know, I will hand over to my colleagues from Homestart who we've got a little poll which we think will take a few minutes, and some of it you might have posted in the chat, and you can just, we basically got a survey running currently for our Think Baby Toolkit, and we just want to capture as much of people's wisdom and insights, whether you've used it or not used it. So yeah, if the poll works, I will hand over to that. I don't know whether it'll pop up on your screen, and if it doesn't, it's fine, because Katie's going to pop the link to the poll survey in the chat, and we've got a QR code as well to cover all bases at the end of the presentation. So yeah, and even if you've not got time to do it justice now, then you can come back to it and add more comments in. So I will over to you guys for the poll.
27% have voted so far, but as we're running out of time, I'll just let you know where we're up to so far, Mel. So the first question, what's your experience of accessing the Think Baby toolkit? People said it's very easy. How clear is it to understand? It's coming across, it's very clear to understand. How easy to integrate the Think Baby toolkit into your everyday practice. Interestingly, this one is easy, but not very easy, which means there's a little bit more that we can do there to support people. So that's really helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
is.
I've got more of a mix for how often do you use the Think Baby toolkit for the next one, because as we know, we've got a mixed audience here.
Thank you.
And then to what extent do you find the Think Baby toolkit relevant to your role? We've got relevant and extremely relevant coming across. How useful to support your professional practice, useful and extremely useful. Would you recommend to other professionals? 100% of people said yes, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. And then we've got some, I'm just trying to think what else is useful. That's interesting. One of the questions is about whether people feel confident in considering baby's perspective in their work since using Think Baby Toolkit. And we've got a few that have said they neither agree nor disagree, and some that say agree. So again, I think we've got some more to be done to help translate into, using it in practice when they're in the moment with families. So that's really helpful.
Oh, thank you.
Any comments about that? Anything about what you're looking for? would be really helpful if there's like
Yeah,
more
yeah,
practical ideas that we can give you. If there's something that's missing, please do let us know, and then we can develop those. Because we've got all of the wealth of experience, we've got all the experts who we can go to, and by experts I mean you guys, the practitioners.
yeah.
Um, so um, please do
Thanks,
share any
Katie.
thoughts. No problem.
So I'll just move on from that one. That was just to show you. So this toolkit, like we said, is still evolving, and we really welcome and are appreciative of your reflections, and they genuinely matter to us. What everything that you've told us today, we will really take on board. And as we come to a close, I'd just like you to think about one small thing or one way you can bring Thinking Baby a little bit more into your everyday work. And if you've got time, then please do post those in the chat so they can see them. And we're sort of going to be developing like a pledge or commitment. So basically thinking about it, to help me think, baby, I commit to. And this might be a small change, a mind shift, or something you want to keep noticing. And then we'll definitely be doing this ourselves. We're going to be posting in Infant Mental Health Awareness Week about how we're getting on with our small changes and pledges. So this is the last slide. I've really appreciated our time with you today. And these are just some QR codes so that you've got them so you can download the toolkit. And that's the red one is the link to the survey, which again, Katie's posted in the chat. So I am just going to, I'm happy I can send, I know this is being recorded, and I'll send you, Vicky, a copy of the slides so that you can share them as well after the presentation. So I'm just going to end the slideshow and stop sharing now so I can see people.
Thank you so much, Melanie and Katie. I think on behalf of the colleagues here, I can confidently say that this is very useful and very relevant to what we do at Home Start. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you, Vicky, for reaching out.
No problem at all. I'll include all the links that you shared today, along with the recording to the wider network. And once the toolkit is finalized,
Yeah,
I'll very happy to actually bring it back to the network and share it again. It's the final version, and
that would be great.
yeah,
Thank you.
continue to have this
Yeah,
conversation around babies' voices. Definitely.
yeah, definitely. I think it's just something that you keep at thinking and coming back to and developing and making sure we get better at it. So yeah,
Yeah.
and we'll share things back with you as well.
Yeah. And for the colleagues here, if you think of anything like Katie already highlighted about the capturing the recording bit, I think that's something our network's very interested in, like how we actually do it, in context. But anything else you think that would be useful to have a chat about, please reach out. I'm happy to do that with you. Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks very much, everyone. Hopefully see you soon.